Hey friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me back in my craft room today. I am going to be working on some birthday cards following the December sheet load of cards from Crafty Owl. This is what the design of the card looks like, and here is how I used it to create my birthday cards. As you can see, I kind of put it on its side and adjusted my oval a little bit and created this fun winter themed card using Lawn Fawn products and some pattern paper from my stash from long ago. So I am going to show you how I cut my pieces and what papers I use, and I will have the link down below in the description of Crafty Owl's original video. So if you want to check out her sheet load as well as so many other awesome videos, you can use that link in my description. I am using this really old pattern paper from Stampin' Up. I have no idea how long I've had it. I'm going to be using these two sheets. They are kind of teal, blue, purple colored, and it was from a set called Snowflake Splendor Designer Series paper. Again, it's retired, but I have been cleaning out my craft room and found it, and so I wanted to use it on these cards. For my cardstock, I'm using this kind of tealishy green color. I believe it's Stampin' Up! Coastal Cabana, and then some purple paper that I have in my stash. I'm not exactly sure of the color, but I'll link down something similar if you like the color. I use my Heffy Doodle Ovals die, the fourth from the center, to cut out my white cardstock for my ovals on my card. So now that I have everything trimmed, I'm just going to show you how I put one card together, but I ended up making 16. This particular card printout from Crafty Owl is to make 9 cards, but I adjusted it to make 16 total. I'm grabbing my snowflake stencils from Lawn Fawn and use some repositional tape to adhere my purple paper to my Make Art station and using my magnets to keep my stencil in place. I'm going to be using 4 Distress Oxide colors, Peacock Feathers, Broken China, Salty Ocean, and Seedless Preserves. For the first snowflake stencil, I'm going to mix the Seedless Preserves with the Broken China. So I'm just using my blending brushes and adding some of that purple color in various spots. And then I will grab my blue blending brush and then add in blue to any of the remaining open spots, as well as blending a little bit into the purple so I get a nice fade between the two colors in the different snowflakes. At first, when I made this background, I didn't actually really like it very much. I thought it was going to be too bright and a little, I don't want to say obnoxious, but it was just a little much that I didn't think it really matched the pattern paper. And so you saw I have a sample already, so I I put it aside, I took a break, and when I came back, I actually kind of liked it. So I think it just didn't turn out what I was picturing in my head at first, but then I really liked how it looked in the end, and I'm glad I stuck with it, and I just kept making more backgrounds. So once I finish my first stencil, I'm going to line up the second one, making sure not to overlap any of the snowflakes, and then I will grab the other 2 colors, which were Peacock Feathers and Salty Ocean, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing. So I'm using my blue blending brush to add in some of the blue in various spots on the snowflakes, and then I'll grab my teal blending brush and blend in Peacock Feathers, filling in any of the open spots on my stencil, as well as blending in with the blue to again get a more seamless transition between the 2 colors. And once I'm done, my favorite part is always the stencil reveal. It's so fun to see what it looks like when you're all done. So after I'm happy with my blending, I will remove my magnets and then lift that stencil. And here is what it looks like. It actually, again, it felt obnoxious at first, but the more I looked at it, the more I really liked it. I thought these colors were really pretty together. Now I wanted to add some shimmer and shine, of course, so I'm bringing out my white metallic watercolor and just using some water and a large brush to splatter on some of that white pearlescent look of a shimmer onto my background. And once it dries, I'm also going to use my Snowflake Background stitch design from Lawn Fawn. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I will have everything in the description box below. So next, I decided to trim off 1/8 of an inch off of all of my cardstock measurements because I didn't like the thick border around my pattern paper. I really liked the color, but when I had originally made my card sample, and I was laying everything out before I glued it, I just felt like it was too much of that green. So I decided to trim it down. So that's what I did. I trimmed off 1/8 of an inch off of each side. So that way there was a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around the rectangle and the square. So here is that snowflake background. Now that I have it dry and I have that stitching detail added, I have a card base, and I'm just going to adhere this first piece to my card base. I'm centering it onto the card base, so there is 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, showing that white background. Next, I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto the thin rectangle piece. Now this comes from the Penguin Party stamp set, as well as Offset Sing's birthday. So I'm using the bold birthday sentiment first on the bottom, and then I'm using the have a very cool sentiment from the Penguin Party, and I'm splitting it in two because it won't fit. So I'm partially stamping very cool and then partially stamping have a. So I have my sentiment, have a very cool birthday. I'm going to add some wet glue to that piece and then put it onto my card base. I'm leaving a border of my background showing on the bottom and on the right. Now, I didn't want to make this card super thick, but now that I have that rectangle piece glued down and the square is going to overlap it, I'm just going to add a little bit of cardstock to the back just to help keep the card a little flat and it's not glued, off kilter, if that makes sense. So I'm just adding a little bit of cardstock to what will be on the left side and then a little bit on the top. So that rectangle is going to be glued where I don't have that extra cardstock paper. So I'm adding glue to those two cardstock pieces, and then I'm going to add glue where it will overlap on that rectangle, and I will center it to the card so there is an even spacing of my snowflake background that I made on the left and right, and then the same spacing at the top as there is from the bottom of the rectangle. Very symmetrical. Now for my oval, I'm going to glue down a extra thin foam square, and then I'm also going to glue a tiny little piece of cardstock. Again, wanting to keep my card as flat as possible, gluing all this down, but I didn't want to glue something down and have it be uneven. So I'm just using these little pieces just to help kind of keep my pieces glued down and secure without it looking wonky. I hope that made sense. So now I'm adhering my oval down to the card. I'm not really centering anything other than it's centered to the card, but just placing it to where it kind of overlaps everything and fits really nicely. Now this is probably one of my new favorite sparkle blends. It is so beautiful. It has like pinks and purples and blues, and obviously, as you can tell, kind of inspired my color palette here, and it's called Bubblegum Blizzard. It's gorgeous. You need to get some. I picked out 3 sequins. I tried to pick different colors, and I'm just gluing them down in a little trio here to the bottom left of my oval. So now I can get working on adding my images. So this is my card base and my bling already done. I'm stamping out the igloo, the penguin with the sign, the trio of snowflakes, and a little present from the Penguin Party stamp set. And I'm using some Express It cardstock, which is my go-to cardstock for alcohol markers. I'm going to be using Ink on 3 Blackout ink, as it is my favorite ink, also for alcohol marker coloring. So just stamping that down. I usually always stamp twice because I feel like you get a much cleaner image when you stamp twice. So thanks to the Misty, I can do that. Now I'm going to take these out and grab my alcohol markers for coloring. I'm just going to show some quick coloring here. I'm using my BT3-1 and the blender to color in my igloo as well as my largest snowflake. I wanted to have a pretty blue ice look here. And I wanted to keep it as light as possible, so that's why I use BT3 and 1 as well as my blender to kind of fade that color out. Now for the purple on the card, I'm using PL2 and PL1, and I'm coloring those in for the gift, the wrapping paper of the gift, as well as the door of my igloo and one of my snowflakes. And then I'm using GT2 and 1 to color in the last snowflake as well as the ribbon on my present. I'm also going to use PL1 to color in my sign just along the edge, and then I'm going to use my blender to blend out and soften it. I wanted my sign to have some color without it being fully colored. I'm stamping the sentiment from Penguin Party. I'm snow glad we're friends, and that's going to be on the sign that my penguin is holding. And then my penguin is colored in with my ice grays. I started with 10 and then went to 6 and 4 to color in my penguin. I'm using orange colors and golden yellow colors to color in the nose or the beak and his little feet, and that is BO2 with GY3. I'm bringing FS4, which is a peachy color, to color in the cheeks of my penguin, and then Ice Gray 2 to outline the white of my penguin, and then blending that out with my blender, just like I did with the ice on my igloo. Now, instead of doing white highlights, I'm actually grabbing my silver embellishment pen that I got from Pear Blossom Press and added silver highlights to everything instead of white. I use my scissors to fussy cut everything out, and that's just for this card. The rest of my cards I'll be using my scan and cut. And I'm going to glue my igloo directly to my card. And then I'm also going to glue down my snowflakes like they're coming out of the chimney. This was actually inspired by my daughter's card. We made some cards for Craft Roulette using Penguin Party, and I had hearts coming out of my igloo, but she had her snowflakes coming out, and I thought that was so adorable, so I incorporated that onto my card. So there are my 3 snowflakes. And then my penguin and my present are going to get some extra thin foam squares, and I will adhere them down to my card. So my penguin will go in front of the little igloo, and then I have my present on top of my sentiment on that rectangle pattern paper piece. And that will finish off my card. So I'm going to go ahead and fold my card base and use my bone folder to help with that crease. And here is a final look at my card design. I hope you like it, and I hope you like my interpretation of Crafty Owl's design. Here are my 2 cards. I'm going to go ahead and finish making my other 14 cards, but I hope you enjoyed this little fun tutorial and you'll check out Crafty Owl's video. Like I said, you can find that link down below in my description. I really enjoyed making these cards, and I'm excited to give them out next month. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!